Start the recording. Welcome to our March monthly member meeting. We're so happy to have you here. We have quite the crowd and a fabulous speaker who is going to share lots of fun tips of things that I don't know. So I'm really excited to learn. But first, we're going to do a couple of announcements. I know we haven't been as formal, but I love this concept and I think we're going to start doing this from now on. Couple things. We have two current shows going on. The Oasis Art Gallery exhibit goes till April 15th, and that is in the Montgomery Mall. And apparently, if you visit, you can be entered for a raffle to win two different prizes. One, either a Plaza gift card or the other, which is a class at Oasis. So it's definitely worth checking out the fabulous art, and also, you might win. The second one is this winter at Windridge. And if you haven't been to Windridge Vineyards yet, Windridge Vineyards yet, I highly recommend it. This winter show will be going through April 5th. So you still have time, especially as the weather gets nice. It's just up 28 and it's delightful. So highly recommend checking out the space and grabbing a glass of wine. Okay, opening next week is another show at the Brookside Gardens, and that is set to be a really big one, and that will go from March 14th to the 25th of April. And there is an open reception March 20th from 2 to 5 p.m. We hope you can join us and say hi to all your art friends. Couple calls for entry as spring is upon us. Windridge Vineyards is now going to be accepting spring entries. Spring is in the air, and those entries were accepted through March 14th, and they will go up in April. The next show will be an all abstract show at the Daily Dish restaurant in Silver Spring, and that will go May 1st to June 30th. And just an announcement and aside, the member show at the Benjamin Gaither Center is now full. And this is going to be amazing. More information and signups are going out next week. There is a huge Plein Air Festival at the National Capital Trolley Museum. It will be a day of plein air, and at night there will be a sale and a reception. There will be a limit of 50 artists. And then also feel free, if you have grandchildren or children that love to paint that are 18 and younger, they can come and participate for free. There is $500 worth of prizes, and it really is going to be a great day. And it's a very cool space if you haven't yet been. And as I said, the registration and more information will be going up next week, the 15th. And also, very exciting, we're going to have Figure Model Sundays, and we're going to have 5 sessions from April 3rd to May 22nd. There's no instruction, but you can come in person or on Zoom, which is great. So if you don't want to leave your house, or happy to see, live models, because it's been a while. This is actually co-sponsored with the Compass Atelier, and it actually will take place in the Compass Atelier classroom. It's $10 per session or $45 for all 5 sessions. There will be an email later this week where you can start signing up. And marker calendars, we have our first field trip. Woohoo! Pandemic's hopefully ending. I can't say that officially out loud, but fingers crossed. There will be a Glenstone Museum trip Friday, May 6th from noon to 3 p.m. So details for that will be going out soon as well. And lastly, there is an election for the MAA board coming up for the 22-23 year. If you would like to run for any positions, it is super fun, fantastic group of people. Please let Alan Rich know, and voting will be April 17th to the 24th, and the term begins June 1st. Okay, with all that business out of the way, I am going to turn it over to Haral, who's going to introduce our key speaker tonight, because I know that she has worked with her in the past and is a huge fan, almost a groupie. So Haral, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Jen, and wishing you very happy birthday today.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so thankful. We are so thankful you are here today. It's a special day. I'm sure you must be having a dinner or some plans.
It's a Wednesday.
So thank you so much. And yes, thank you so much, Chris, to be here with us and sharing your art and techniques and everything. So yeah, I'm introducing Chris Cozen, yes. She's from Southern California, I guess, right? Yes, Chris? Yes. So I'm following Grace since so many years, in 2015. Yeah, and she's wonderful acrylic painter, self-taught artist, and very, very generous educator. And she's teaching. She was teaching with Golden. So the technique I have learned watching her videos and everything, reading books and all. I have 3 books of her, and she's wonderful, so beautifully written and explained everything. So I'm fully impressed. I can talk about Chris for an hour or more than that. So yeah, that's it. I will not take more time, please. Here it is. Okay. Yeah, it's yours.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to, am I on? Yeah.
Yeah, you're
all right.
on.
I'm going to, should I pin myself? Is that how we're going to do it? There we go. Thank you. I'm going to do a little slideshow first. I'm going to concentrate tonight on collage and collage techniques, get into making your own papers and doing the things that really make collage your own work. So I'm going to start with a little video, and if somebody would let me share screen, I would appreciate that. And I will find it.
Jen, are you able to do that?
Maybe you can spotlight her.
Chris, you should be able to share.
Okay, can you see it
Yeah,
now or
you
not?
should be able to share.
All right, let me go back to Zoom and then share. All right, share here. And then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to make it bigger. Hold on.
Yep, that
Excellent.
is working.
Perfect.
Present. All right. There's a little blue dot over here. So I'm going to move on. So just to review what collage is, I don't know how many of you do collage, but essentially it's the word means glue, and we draw from all kinds of sources. I always think it's important to remind people that if you're drawing from sources that come before the mid-1920s, you have to deal with copyright laws. So that's always important to remember when you're working with newer materials. And if you can alter the materials in a way in which they're not representative of what they were original, then you can probably get away with it. But it's important to respect the original sources when you're doing collage. It incorporates many things. Photo montage, which some of us have all done on the computer by this point, or have glued together in a number of photos in your children's scrapbooks or photo books over the years. Fabric collage, decoupage, which is different than what we know as art collage, but was a very popular form in the earlier centuries. They each are part of putting smaller pieces together into a composition, a whole. And today we use our computers a lot for that, or even our apps on the phone. So I'm just going to share some of my work, and I need to just get rid of you, put you guys on the side or something and move you out of the way. There we go. Oh, move. Let's just move you. There we go. This is a collage. It's an abstract landscape, and you can see that there's a lot of texture on it. It combines paint and applied objects, which is what we know as, in a lot of ways, as mixed media. My mixed media pieces are often heavily collaged. And these are just some examples, so I'm going to go through them. We want to think about our substrates when we use collage. This is done on a cradled board. I want my collage to be very flat, so it's important to me that the gluing process is very complete in all aspects and very flat. So I'll run you through some of those techniques a little bit later on. Sometimes collage can be funny. We had a challenge in my collage group this year was surrealistic collage. And I had this image of this tower in some foreign country and this girl out of a fashion magazine. And I cut her in half and she became part of the building. So it was great to see all of the interesting ways people handled that challenge and quite funny. This is pieces of shapes put together into a collage. And I enjoy the puzzle-like quality of collage a lot. And I like to embellish my pieces with line work and paint. This is the one that's hanging behind me on the wall. Which direction would it be? I get out of the way, right back there. And it's most of the flowers, the vase and the white bottom part of it and this leaf on the left are all collage that have been embellished with paint. And the nuance that you can get with combining colors of papers that you have made, a lot of these were handmade papers, hand painted papers, you get a much more of a finesse in your work if you think about an actual object and how things are shadowed and shaded and how the colors work together in a flower. Imagine that the colors you can see in a flower and trying to get them into the collage work when you're putting them together. I will draw the flower and then tear my pieces and ease them in so that it looks very natural in form. I don't use my scissors very much when I'm cutting unless it's a very exacting piece. This is also largely collage. The background is not, but the linear plant-like movement is all collage. Just another example of how different collage can be. This is abstract one, of course. I've used a lot of letters and bits of text in here along with torn paper. Now these papers, all of these papers in this, I made by hand using stencils and hand cut stamps that I did with the soft product that you can cut right into. I don't know what it's called exactly, but I had made a number of them many years ago for another project. And so I got them out and used them in this project. We have a big project to make 20 of these for something going on at my art council. And this is an abstract one. The back part of this is collage and transfer onto the board. And there's some texture pieces in here and then drawing on top of that. This little green part is also. And we had a 3D collage project in one of our things. And this is what I made out of a box, just a cardboard box. I was able to construct it and collage all the sides and top, bottom, inside, everything had to be collaged. We have a lot of fun in our collage group. This is more abstract. Some of these papers are made, this one and this face and these dark blue pieces are made on a heavier weight paper, which I'll show you. That was originally black. And you get very nicely torn black edges when you tear the paper when it's made on another color or black, green, dark blue. Gives a different interest and perspective to when you apply them. This is using photographs of real people, real photographs that have been copied, of course, onto an appropriate paper. Is a real interesting way to bring personal aspects to collage. I have done many, many, many family history collages in my lifetime, where you tell a story about your family through collage elements, using collage elements. This happens to be somebody whose mother was a refugee at some point in her life. And this little girl, this is a picture of her when she was a little girl, and I inserted it into this sort of maze of windows, doors, and stairwells as a way to picture her in the chaos that being a refugee is. So being able to tell a story through your collage is a big part of using collage in art. This one's an abstract collage, lots of color pieces in here, and handmade papers, all these little striped ones here. This is not a handmade paper, but sometimes I use bought papers if they have the right color. Not too often anymore. Used to a lot. There's another piece like that other one that's part of a series. And a playful one. We have a challenge every month in our collage group. So we've had a lot of practice coming up with themes and then working towards the theme. We're having a big show in May here, and the theme for that show is paint like your favorite artist, or collage like your favorite artist, so representing somebody else. And this one's called A Complicated Genealogy. It has documents from several generations on here, and stamps as if the person could have traveled from here and there, the family has traveled. And it's interesting to put personal items into things. And this one, I'll show you close up, is sort of my latest iteration of collage, and it has about 25 layers on it, all built on a cradle board, and that was started with alcohol inks for the background. So it was very fascinating to work. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing here, and then I'm going to change my camera, blow this up big, change my camera. Okay, wait a second. To here. Great. Okay. I'm just getting that piece to show you. It has a shiny surface on it, so I'm going to get it close to the camera so you can see more closely all these pieces. Let's see if I can put my hand in the right place. Maybe this way is better. Here. These pieces that are like sea kelp or things like that, they are cut out and are about 2 layers below the surface. And there are very thin pieces. These oval shapes are very thin pieces that are made on deli wrap, but not the standard deli wrap, a finer tissue kind. And I'll show you those in a minute as an example. So I'm just going to put this aside and get some of the papers and talk you through. It's important to know that the papers that you paint on and apply to your surface are going to lay down flat and are going to not do a lot of crinkling. I don't know if you've had any experience with gluing down parchment paper. Parchment paper can give everybody a fit. It's similar to the deli wrap in feel, but it doesn't take glue very well. So, and the other one is Vellum. Vellum is also difficult. So I choose normally the heavier weight standard deli wrap paper. If you don't know what that is, it's something that people use to wrap sandwiches, and you get it in a food supply. We have Smart and Final here. I don't know if they have that on the East Coast, but I seem to remember they do have something similar. Somewhere you go to get a lot of products to do bulk packaging, lots of packages of cups that are 100 and 300 and 400 at a time, that kind of a place. So that's the heavyweight one. You can hear the amount of crispness there is to the paper. And then the thinner one has, this is 2 pieces. You can see that it's much sheerer and much lighter weight. And this one, although it's more fragile, is a little more difficult to use if you're painting on it. It's best to put down a piece of plastic and then paint on it and let it sit, and then lift it up when it's about halfway dry and then hang it. This weight, the normal weight, no problem letting it sit and just drying on its own. So I just paint them, put them on the floor, and they'll be dry in no time. These get a little more fragile, but they're much better for getting these fine layers that if you want to build up, so you don't have bulkiness to the surface. Just going to give you a close-up of a few more pieces before we go on. And what I use for surfaces, you can use a heavyweight paper. I use Cozen acrylic paper when I'm doing a paper collage, and the weight of it is just collage with the weight of it. It doesn't buckle, and even if it buckles a little bit while you have it wet, this has some water media on it. All you do once it's dry is put a few books on it, and it straightens out really well. This has a heavy piece glued to it right here, another piece, and you can see, I don't know if I can figure out how to show you that. You can see that it lays very flat even when a heavy piece is glued to it. So the Cozen acrylic paper comes in a number of sizes, comes in big sheets in a roll as well. Canvas boards work really well for collage, and cradle board, which is the ones with the wood on the side, work really well for collage. This one, I found some product that I could collage with like a cold wax medium made for acrylics. And I tried it on this piece and it worked really well. So that was a new avenue for me. Canvas works great.
We have one question about materials.
Okay.
When you use dried plant materials like leaves or grass and you want to apply color to them, what kind of material do you recommend?
Well, I hesitate. I'm a big person on having things that are going to last over time. I would recommend that if you want to use a plant material, that you put it in your scanner and then cut it out and use it that way and get a copy of it. Because
Interesting. Yeah.
You don't have any guarantee that over time that's going to last. And if you sell a piece with something like that on it, you have that as a problem down the road. Because I see a lot of people that do that, and it looks nice, but I've also gone back to things I did when I didn't know better, and over time see that it's deteriorated. So I have a concern about that. It's like knowing where your papers come from, and knowing where your paint comes from, and knowing if it's not going to fade. All those things are the marks of questions you have to have as a professional artist. And so those are things to put into your what you want to think about when you're making art. Do you want something that's going to last over time? So I always make, like, rather than use original things, I always make copies of things, because I know that a copy made on a toner machine that actually is not inkjet or fadeable in any way is going to last a lot longer than something that's not archival and may fade. So
That makes complete sense. One more question and then we'll let you continue.
okay.
Is there a reason you want to have everything lay flat? Is that standard in collage or I mean,
I think
I
it's
do.
probably more me. I don't like wrinkles and things. It doesn't feel
There
like
you
it's
go
um,
then. Okay.
and I
Thank you.
don't want the chance to be that somebody's going to play with it and stick their finger in and then ruin it. You know, if it's not properly glued down, there's more opportunities for dirt and oils and all kinds of things to get in and under and on what is not properly secured to the surface. So it
Got it.
makes me logical sense as an artist educator that I would teach people to do what was best practice, you know.
Oh.
So just to show you on this one, this is another one of our challenges. We had all submitted photographs and we selected 5 photographs and we had to use elements of each of those photographs and create our collage. So the elements were this piece up here, these little ones sticking out, rocks, photograph of rocks, and some cactus. And there was one other one. I can't remember what it was, but something in one of these pieces up here. So we all went on completely different tracks. So if you start doing collage, you have so many choices in front of you. You need to think of what your composition is going to be, right? So with all these things of nature, I wanted to create Mother Nature. So that's what I ended up making. So how we interpret the challenge when we do collage, or how we assemble our materials, will have a big factor in how things look. Here's another example of doing family history in collage. This is my grandparents and their children. And this is my grandmother up here as a child. And they were in front of the very first house, which is this building behind. And it's just a way to, like, instead of putting family picture up, to put something about your family history out there for the world to try to understand or to see. My family moved from Canada to Florida and at the turn of the early 1900s. And it was pretty primitive there at the time. And so I like people to know, you know, people make risky chances, to make a lot of risky choices in their life and end up creating a whole nother life. Here's that piece I talked about. It was just really important to have the flatness of this. This was, the challenge was to, what's going on in your brain? This was during COVID. And we chose an artist that had done this whole series on her brain and what she was thinking about. And it was her profile and what was going on in her brain at the top inside. And I was at that point in COVID taking a lot of pictures of things outside and dreaming of going back to Italy. So that's what's going on in this whole part of Italy, picked from a photograph I took that I converted to black and white, and all the patterns that I saw in nature. So we have a lot of fun doing these things. And it's just nice to be able to share that collage can take you in so many different directions. This is a little bit more abstracted here, simple abstract composition in a cruciform style, and then with applications, creating a cruciform with the collage. So
what is your final coat that's on all of these?
matte medium.
Matte medium. Do you have
Yeah.
a particular brand you like?
I use golden only. I'm a little biased because I was a golden artist educator for 9 years, and I'm working artist in 9 years, combination of those years. So I'm biased towards quality products, and golden has never given me any trouble. So excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of water.
While you're doing that, another question is, will you be discussing the gluing
Yes, I'm going to do that. Absolutely. The reason you want to have even surface on it is that lots of time papers have different qualities to them, their surface. Something might be shinier and something might be duller. Something might be fragile. You want to be sure all the surfaces read in the same, read the same at the end. So I use a final coat of matte medium, and then I'll spray varnish it, also with a matte or a satin. All right, so let's go on to how you make decisions about putting things together. We do that. First of all, how do you decide how to start, right? I sometimes start with an inspiration from a photograph I took or I collected, or that just speaks to me. Like if I wanted to start with something like this is a photograph of it was in Sedona, Arizona. It was one of the Indian sites that we went to where there were markings on the wall left, the stone wall, the sandstone walls. And I think it's a wonderful color. So I might start by trimming the edges of this and using this as my first layer. I could also start with a board like this that's been played with and collaged, and I might start with this as my first layer. I have many choices to do that. I could start on a plain piece of paper, like we talked about before, like this. But every time I start, whatever I choose is going to be an influence on what I do next, right? So if I go through then and select elements, say I want to use this character that I found a long time ago in a magazine. And so I ripped out the copy. I keep my originals of magazine pictures that I found. I think this is a very old National Geographic. If I used him on this surface, there's not a lot of contrast, right? So I'm thinking that's not my best choice for this particular element. I can do one of two things. I can continue using this background, or I can add something behind him that will make him stand out. So let me just pull some. Here I have a big stack of paper. Need something with way more contrast. So the opposite of the rust and the reds and the pinks is green, right? So adding that makes him stand forward much more. So I might say, okay, maybe I'll start working with that. So you're going to want to pull a selection of things that you like. I always go through my box of made papers, captured, and found images, my photograph copies that I've made, and I start making selections of things that interest me. At the bottom of this pile are.
Chris, may I ask you to turn your examples around the other way?
Upside down, right? Have I got it reversed? Shall I maybe?
Yeah, it's upside down for us.
I think I can reverse this, right? How do I do that? Video settings. I want to mirror. Let me, there we go. Is that good?
Pivot your artwork around.
Did this work if I mirrored it?
No, it didn't work. Can you just rotate it towards the other so that the feet are towards us instead of towards you?
Okay.
Yes, there we go.
I thought that would mirror, the image would mirror, but it didn't do it that way. Okay. So the same thing. I pull all kinds of different things. And I think, how is this all gonna work? Any of these draw my eye to, and I start looking at how things might lay out. I might want another pop of color in there somewhere. I don't know. I don't know at first when I start, but I start arranging them just on my table. I don't glue until I have composition, and then I take a picture of it on my phone so that I can hold that image and reconstruct it. So if you are playing and you have 3 iterations of it and you can't decide which, I always find it's good to take the picture, edit it so that you can crop out all the stuff you don't want to see and look at them carefully. And you get a better idea by stepping away from it and putting it in a photo of what the composition really, does it hold together? Is it pleasing? Do the sizes work? Do the colors work? All those things can be addressed simply by taking a photograph along the way. And as you change it, if you start shifting things, keep taking photographs. Now that we have these digital photographs on our cameras on our phone, we don't have to worry. We can always delete them and save the one that we finally decided on. But it really helps us step back, especially when you're making collage, because you're usually surrounded by all kinds of pieces of paper. Okay, let's start on a blank piece. And do some work. I'll have to trim this guy. And if there's any questions, have any of you used photographs in your collage work, or your own photographs as sources of color or inspiration?
Yeah, I'm using it. I'm doing my jelly prints collage. I'm making my collage paper with jelly prints.
Yes.
Jelly prints.
I do that too. A few years ago, I stopped buying. When I began, I only bought, I bought different papers, and I had a big collection. And I did a lot of teaching at art retreats and stuff like that. And of course, you had to bring a lot of paper when you're doing things. It was part of the class. But I stopped doing that. I started making all my papers a number of years ago. So when I'm doing thin papers, I always go for a thinner, like if I'm doing the tissue papers, I'll do the matte medium liquid, the one that comes in a container like this. That's kind of liquid. There's a matte medium, and there's one even thinner called fluid matte medium. But for this paper, which is a heavier copy paper, I'm going to use the soft gel because it's easier for me to see where it is, and it doesn't dry out quite so fast here in the desert. So I'm just using a palette knife, and I'm applying it to the board, and it's going to soak in to the paper because this paper is not sealed.
What kind of board is that?
This is just my my acrylic paper, Canson acrylic paper. I paint on it, I collage on it. I have used it for probably now 10 years with great success. And I highly recommend it. I get no product. They don't do anything for me, but all I know is it's the best paper I've used for any mixed media.
What's the brand? Panatonic?
Canson. I think it's now owned by Strathmore.
Okay.
It was a French company, but it's now owned by Strathmore. I think they just bought it about a year or so ago. And it's not going to glue here the first time. You see that? Because the paper took it in. So now what I'm going to do is wet this a little bit. It's very dry in the desert. I don't know if you have any familiarity with working when there's absolutely no humidity. It's one of the issues we face in the desert all the time. I'm just dipping my palette knife.
I can't say we have that problem here.
I'm dipping my palette knife in the in a jar of water, and I'm reactivating the surface of the medium because it's thicker than regular medium, and it can be. So I should have a little more success. I never know from one day to the next how. So the trick is push out from the center to the edges. So I can always go back in and pick up more glue on my edges, but I need to get the center down with no air bubbles, okay? Now I'll finish the edges. One edge at a time. I have my brayer, here it is.
Chris, do you make your collage paper with jelly plates? Like
Do.
jelly?
I do some, and some I paint. I save, try not to waste paint, because paint is so expensive. So I will use the deli paper next to my palette, and at the end of every time I'm painting, I make, so I missed, you can see why I like to have my glue really down. I missed some in the middle. You guys are just gonna have to bear with me today. The weather is not being very cooperative. Anyway, we'll go on. We'll talk about composition and we'll talk about the gluing later. So where'd my pieces go? So I decided I liked this blue. So now I have to get proportion where I want to put this. Do I want to keep that white spot there? Drop him below. So I'm thinking how again do I place him? I don't think I want square lines anymore. So I'm going to tear and just take a chance that maybe a ragged line is what I want to do. And let's not have that white spot. I think that's good. You guys can see, and then I have to figure out how to do it upside down. So on this paper, that the green paper, I'm going to have to go to a thinner glue. You can see the difference in how that spreads compared to the matte gel. I don't really want to put the glue on. That worked good. Thinner paper. And this is heavy again, but let's see if it works. Let's try putting it on both sides and maybe that'll solve the problem. My jar is almost empty. If I get laid down here a little further. I get the bottom laid down, then I can tuck behind and lay down the glue underneath and then push there. And lift from the back again. So that I get a nice clean seal on everything. Now I have excess here, a baby wipe. I'm going to wipe off the surface. Extra. So I don't have a mess. So can I look at it, turn it around, look at it a little bit? You can see when I'll turn it, flip it around when I get to the next stage. So I have an old letter in here somewhere. Have to put my fingers on it.
Chris, do you apply gel medium over the image to seal
I
it?
will at the very end,
Okay.
not till the end.
Yeah,
I have
because you're
some
layering up.
old, I have some old packs here. A very old letter somehow I got gifted with. And I'm going to put that in here.
Chris, we did have a question about your varnish coat on what do you use for that?
There is a archival varnish, spray varnish that Golden makes that also has UV protection in it, which is very important for papers, since it's not paint. So it comes in gloss, matte, and satin,
Okay.
and that's very handy to have in your toolbox.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
All right, so this is a pretty. Go over the top of that one just to make sure it's down. So you can see how putting things together. Now I might want to decide where I put everything. Go in with pattern somewhere, another pattern later, or decide it needs another patch of color someplace to break it up. I don't know. I think about it. I'll put them away at this stage and I'll say, all right, is this enough? You're looking at it. What do I need to do? Seems to me I need a line here. I feel like that's not finished. And I pulled a line earlier. Problem is finding it here. I pulled a dark line. So it seems to me I need a line. What do you think? Anybody in agreement?
It's pretty. I like that line, the green line.
Yeah, I think the line works.
Yeah, it's a beautiful composition. It brings a
But
nice element.
Thinking the white goes this way towards that.
I'm thinking the line maybe stops at the step and leave the blue across the bottom.
Oh, right here? That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
What do you
Should I
think?
take it all the way up to the top there? That might work, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. Now, this paper, I prepped my gel plate and I tore pictures out of magazines. And I just put paint on my gel plate, mushed it all up, and then printed the paper with the paint that was on the gel plate. And sometimes that gets you some very interesting paints. But papers. That's what that particular paper is. That's a stripe. I'll see if I can find another one that's like, there's another one like it. So the blue on this paper was on the magazine page. But then I added gold and very thin layers on my gel plate. And I just put the image down. And when I lifted it, I had the mix of the paint plus what was on the magazine page. So the paint actually helped seal the inks in. And then the other side, that I just did the other side as well and ended up with some words in there and the edges of an image, but it all ended up making a very interesting piece of paper. So that's another way you can approach making papers for your collage. So let me put this away and then come back to it and just talk about another way to use collage. Okay.
We also have a couple of questions in
Go
terms
ahead.
of when working on papers or paper boards as a substrate, do you seal them before gluing the collage elements on?
Yeah, say that again.
When you use like a paper board, do you
Uh-huh.
seal them before using collage elements?
Do I do what?
Seal the paper?
You can seal them. I do, and so I do sometimes, and sometimes I don't. It just depends. I probably today should have because it wouldn't have soaked in the glue so much, but I tend like to use paper as paper and not sealed, but that's just kind of one of my habits. The other way I use paper in collage in my art is by starting with a base painting and then using the initial shapes that I put onto the canvas as the springboard for the collage. So in that case, I would go into my already made stashes of papers and pull out various greens and pieces that could be integrated into the first layers of the collage that this would end up being. I'm just moving.
How do you transfer the photos onto other papers?
How do you transfer the photos onto a canvas, or, oh, how do I transfer photos?
Yeah.
I take them from my computer onto a little, what are those stick discs? The stick things you stick in the computer?
USB.
Yeah, a USB, and then I take them over to Staples and print them.
So just regular photo paper.
Yeah, I use I use a high quality photo, not a photo paper glossy, but a high quality printing paper, copy paper. It's not photo paper that it's shiny.
Okay,
It's just a high quality copy paper.
got it.
And that's the easiest way to do it. Then you can make multiple copies and have them. I have, I alter them. If I want to alter them first, I alter them in the computer. And then I can transform, I can just have whatever I want. If I want to make them black and white, I can do it at home. And then I just take my disc over to the copy shop and I do the number of prints that I want.
Okay.
And you also can make copies of your own artwork to use as backgrounds. So like this is a photograph of something, of a layer I did in another piece, and I like that layer. So I took that photograph and now can use it as a jumping off point for another piece. So you have to think through, how can you use what you've already done to build on? Because a lot of the work you've already done is nice and could be utilized in a different way and just gives more energy to the kinds of work that you do.
And how do you know that all these materials that you're using are archival?
Well, the quality, the paper itself is not a recycled paper, so it hasn't been through the mill already once. It's 100% rag paper, and it has the printing ink from the copy machines at the store are now the carbon based, right? Which means that they're really solidly burnt onto the paper.
Mm-hmm.
So that's stable. So I'm not using a trash paper to make the copies. I'm not using something that is the ink possibly might not stay the right color. These have stayed. I have pieces I've done 15 and 20 years ago made this way that haven't shown any in the least bit changed over the years. I feel pretty confident. Plus, then you glue them under the material, the acrylic mediums, and they're secure and they're not getting, and you have the archival spray on them, they're not going to get faded from the sunlight in that way either. So those are just pieces of it, you know.
Okay.
So it's important to think through your process and not just reach for any old thing, candy wrappers and all kinds of stuff that you don't know where it's been or how it's doing. Anytime I have a map that I really like, I tend to make a copy of that as well. So then I always have the map and I can just use the pieces. I have used originals when I only had parts of things, but I worry about those the most. They get extra coats of the archival mediums. Golden also has a UV medium that is sort of like the soft gel that has the UV protection in it. I'll have to send Haral the name of that. I don't have it in front of me. I also print on what is this called? Acetate. Okay, so you get it's not the one that's made for photographs, but I just take the image from my computer and I can print the image onto acetate. And I use those as well. And they make interesting applications on, as you see the color through them when you use them. And when they have the medium on them, they disappear as well. So on her face, what I did was paint the back of the face with buff so it shows up more, but the rest of it just sort of disappears. So she could have a face in the middle of anywhere you wanted to put it. What else? I do a lot of fine cutting when I have images. I also have, there's a lot of companies that make images that are copyright free, that are old images from the turn of the century. If I have found something in a vintage shop, like I once found a book of a handwriting exercise book by a child in France with beautiful exercises of printing of A, B, C, D, in very repeated fashion in this gorgeous handwriting. I just make a copy of it and then use the copies and not the original. I'll always have the original. I found turn of the century, the 1800s in Italy, like essay books and stuff like that. And I try to use copies rather than the original. I also learned that you can copy from a magazine any words you want using the gel plate. Have you all tried that yet? If you haven't, it's kind of interesting. You can copy images from the gel plate using paint on the surface and then pushing the image face down onto the plate and lifting it quickly. There's a couple of examples of that. And it really does change the image enough that it's not recognizable, especially if you start combining it with other things. So it's kind of an interesting way to do it. That's very popular right now. But let's just go into this to show you how I might tack this particular piece. I get my towel and my
Chris,
brush.
there is a question for oil painting. So somebody's asking, they started with oil paint and they decided to put some pictures like photos as a collage. So how do they do? Because gel medium will not work with oil. So
not after the fact. I really don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
I wish I did, but I don't know if it's possible.
Yeah, so the-
I think you should start with your collage part. You
Yeah.
have to, in the future, if you want to do that, it would be important to start the composition with the pieces you want as collage,
yeah.
because
Yes.
that way you don't fight the lean and fat issues. You can add oil paint over
Over acrylic, yes. And
Yeah,
yes.
over
acrylic.
the acrylic, but you can't do the other
Yeah, other way, correct.
the other
correct.
way. So building a collage that's complex with lots of different mediums. You always have to figure out what the problems are before you start, because you could run into difficulty. Somebody mentioned the other day when I was doing another one of these that this particular part of this composition right here looked like a bird in the making. So I am going to pursue that here with these yellow papers. See if that bird actually shows up. So what I'm doing is putting some glue down and then glue over on these thin papers. And I use my other brush to push down when it's not wet, just push down and distribute the extra glue over the top. Now I've got to round the head out. I think I need to have plain white paper on it. So I've been doing demos, it seems like, for the past week straight. So one of the demos was how I start my paintings. And so I had this piece, and then somebody mentioned that they saw this bird. So I am going to just give him a little bit of definition so we can try to see him pop out.
Chris, I'm very curious to know about, like, do you plan your painting or image in like before you start, or just it's intuitive? You go with the flow?
I rarely plan my first layers because I started painting after I retired from working as a teacher for many, many years, and I've always worked with young children, very young children, early childhood background. And the joy that children bring to painting has always been something I kept close to me, you know, that they just come to painting when they're young without any preconceived notions about what they're going to paint. And they just say, oh, look, I made whatever, because it happened. So I always approach my early stages with just that attitude that let's just see what happens and where it takes me. Once I get something down, I wonder if you can start seeing that. Once you get something down, then you can say, oh, what do I see? But for me, it's the joy of just putting down the color and enjoying it. Just gonna put something dark. A little bit of dark behind. If I'm doing collage in this manner, it takes patience and time to build this up. Kind of like a puzzle. Did I flip the wrong way? Yes. It's like a puzzle, and you're putting all the pieces in. And I'm just going to sort of piece in a little area so you can get the idea of how you would build something up. So that line is too strong by itself. So I'm going to add another one over the top of it so that it blends in. But I still need that strong line by his head. So I am just going to blend that in so the strong line is not so present in the composition. So need a little more. This is a piece of paper that is just a collection of what was left on my brush, but you can see how it's useful when you're starting to put together something. So
I have a question about the photos and images from magazines.
Okay.
How do you know there's no copyright concerns?
Well, in the case of this one, it was from a old National Geographic that goes back a long way. So I wasn't worried about it because I knew where it was coming from. If I'm using magazine photographs, you know, like for my collage group, like with the lady that was the model from one of the magazines that was cut off at her head and her legs. I wouldn't sell that piece. It was just for my group. I can make anything I want as long as I'm not selling it. There's no restriction.
Got it. And
So,
I'm curious, where do you sell and show your work?
I show my work in local shows. I sell my work online. It's not been my most of my career has been as an instructor, and selling my work has never been my priority. And so generally I sell to family and friends, or somebody notices something and buys it. So for me, it's in the impetus. Oh, I can see the bird. You see the bird? The curve. The impetus for me has always been, what can I learn and how much fun can I have to do it? You know, and that's why I don't mind doing classes, and I did all those DVDs because I'm a teacher at heart, much more than I am an artist that's interested in selling her work.
Got
I
it.
guess
And
that's
what is this
fundamentally is
collage
probably a
group?
flaw.
What is this collage group that you've been talking about?
It's just our local, it's our local community. We, during COVID, or just before COVID started, we formed this little group, and we've met for, well, it was the year before COVID. We meet monthly on Zoom, and we set out challenges for ourselves. It's something any organization could do. You guys could do it easily. Just set it up, set the monthly challenge, and see what people do, you know?
Fun.
Let's improve the curve line on his beak there.
So it is 8:10. I just want to be cognizant of everybody's time.
So what else do I need to show you? I was going to show you, let me just put this aside. Boy, time goes so fast. How did it get to be so fast? I was going to just show you how to do that. Two things. When you work with, want to make decorative papers that are incredibly beautiful, and really show off metallic paints, consider using black paper, so that the metallics can really show up, and layering the different metallics. You can see how dramatic they are, and the beauty of them, the ability of tearing them. Let me get a piece I can tear here. When you go to tear them, this is a blue paper, so you get this blue edge. When you tear the black paper, first you get these beautiful black edges then, that when they're put, when you glue them down, creates its own element within the composition. So by using a black paper, and you need a smooth paper to use on the gel plate, and Strathmore has a brand of black paper in different sizes that you can use. It's, I don't remember what it's called, but I just looked it up, that they do have it. And that is something that is useful in, you remember the 2 or 3 compositions that I had, that's useful for your constructions. Do the lifting of images. Has anybody tried that yet or not?
Is that metallic ink or metallic paper?
It's metallic paint, golden iridescence and interference paints.
Yeah, I tried it. I'm using them.
Yeah, are you using that to make the papers on black paper?
Well, I'm using on wax paper and on my canvas sometimes.
Yeah,
but
the black, because of the mica, especially with the interference paints, they don't show up on white paper.
yeah,
They need
the darker surface, right?
they need the contrast to block the way the light goes through them, get the color on to show up. So using the black paper blocks the stops the light that bounces it back towards you with the color. So the metallic paints show up much better on darker papers or darker surfaces, just something to keep in mind. What I was going to ask you last before I go is, have you transferred from the magazines yet? Have you done that or looked at YouTube? So done that? Anybody? If you want to, I can do one.
You know, I would like to see that. Actually, I
Okay.
was trying today only on gel plate transferring a photo from the magazine, but somehow it didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work that good. So I would love to watch you. Yes.
Okay, so we use a darker color. Let's see. You don't need too much paint. That's part of the, I'm gonna stand up, so start your roll if I stand up. You want a sheer layer.
Do you think high contrast images will work only?
You do. You want a high contrast image. That's why I pulled this one out. So, and if I have extra ink, I want to be sure to get rid of it. Okay. And if I
So we can
take
choose only with the white background, a very high contrast,
right.
right? Not the colorful one, right?
You want high contrast in the image.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a white background, but the contrast between what you want printed and what this is the weather I deal with here.
I tried it today so many times and so many images, but it didn't turn out that good what I wanted.
Hold on.
Maybe those images are
Eventually
not
this
high contrast. Yeah,
gel
high
plate-
contrast.
Eventually this gel plate will take this because it's right here. That's enough. Right, we're gonna put her down. It doesn't take, you don't leave it very long. So we'll get as much of her as we can with the amount of paint that stayed on there because of the heat. It's like 0 humidity here today. It does not help us. All right, so we're gonna lift it and see what we get. Nothing. This
So we
goes to
don't-
show you. Yeah. I think it just, I'm not having any success today, but I have had a lot of success. I'm sorry about that, but the weather doesn't always let this happen. I couldn't get the paint even to stay on the gel plate, just kept lifting. I don't know if I could get any more. Nope. All right, well, so much for that. And it's never perfect. Are there any questions I can answer? Anybody?
Anybody else want to unmute yourself and, just ask a question or?
What kind of paint am I I'm using? Golden Artist Colors fluid acrylics. There's it. There we go.
Was curious where you get your gel, or is it jelly plates?
These are a gel plate. I order mine from the internet.
Thank you.
What else? Oh,
Anyone
somebody could
else?
see the bird. I'm glad you could see the bird. Thank you.
Have you thought about making a, social media video series? Because we have a vote for that.
What?
A social media video series, because you're
Oh,
so
I don't
great
know.
teacher.
Thank you. I don't know if I have any more time in my life. I am the program manager for our artist council here. And that keeps me very busy.
I can
So-
imagine.
I miss teaching personally. I miss teaching, and I really missed teaching in person a lot. So I'm hoping now that COVID is hopefully behind us, that I can get back to that.
And she has, I would say everyone, she has tons of video on Artist Network, YouTube, and very informative, very beautiful videos. I learned a lot from her videos. So
They're still available through
yeah,
Artist
still
Network.
available.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
have a number of books out, and I'm just to anybody who wants to email me and ask me questions, I'm open to that, no problem. Happy to answer questions on the fly if somebody runs into a problem. A lot of other people do it, so don't
Yeah, that's
hesitate.
awesome, Chris. I totally appreciate it. You're so busy working, teaching, managing the whole group, and still anytime I email or comment, you are ready to reply and help.
Yeah,
So that's
I'm
awesome.
happy to. I
How,
think
how do you get the time? You know, do you have assistants?
I make the time. I think the teacher part of me really wants to stay in touch with people, and I think that people should have somebody to go to when they run into problems. It's
That's so
it's
kind
nice
of
to
you.
have somebody that is willing to answer questions, and I don't think it happens all that much. I think people who aren't teachers that are trying to teach art, that aren't born or haven't been trained as teachers in the long run, probably run out of patience over time. But I got a lot of patience for a lot of years.
That's so
Well,
awesome.
thank
That's
you
so
so
kind of
much. You were very patient with us and answering all of our questions.
I'm going to get rid of this thing, unshare here. How do I unshare, stop share? Or I don't stop share. What do I do here?
You turn it, can you
I just
turn
have
the
to remember to
camera?
do,
Yeah.
I have to remember to do these things in a second. Go back to this camera so I can say goodbye properly. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Thank you
Bye, everybody.
so
Thank
much,
you.
Chris. This has been fabulous. Your work is amazing. I wish I could touch it because it looks so cool with all those layers.
It is fun. It is fun to look at because it takes you down for a deep dive.
I bet it does. In
All right,
person,
good luck,
it's even
everybody.
better.
Stay in
Thank you.
touch.
Thank you.
Thank you so
right.
much, Chris. Thank you.
Bye. Stay in touch,
Bye,
you're all.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.